Welcome back to the Anger Man Podcast with Jason and Greg. So, Jay, you were listening to this video the other day. I was actually on the cruise. You sent it to me, and I thought it'd be interesting to actually do a video on this particular subject because a lot of people didn't actually catch this because it was a very small snippet of an interview that was done the other day on the Fresh and Fit podcast with David Benavidez. And it's interesting because we've heard the desire from Terence Crawford to get the opportunity to face Canelo Alvarez at 168. And we have stated on multiple occasions, and I believe that we were actually the first podcast that actually pitched this. Terence Crawford should face David Benavidez for the opportunity to fight Canelo Alvarez. And we said this months and months and months ago. This was before Floyd. This was before anybody else stated this. And it was because we felt that Jermell Charlo performed so terribly that it would be a hard pitch for any boxing fans, and by fans I mean the general public, right, to sell Terence Crawford as a viable opponent for Canelo Alvarez moving up from 147 to 168. But if he were to go up and fight somebody like David Benavidez, win that fight, then he would be, of course, a credible opponent. And so we thought, hey, make that fight happen, and you got a real fight there. And there were a lot of pushback, specifically from Terence Crawford fans, because they said, oh, you guys are trying to get him beat, so forth and so on. And I'm like, no, that's a viable option if you want to get to Canelo Alvarez. And then you started getting all these arguments about measurables and, the height and the reach and Canelo has the same height and reach and all this other stuff, and they're the same size, but, David Benavidez, he's 6 foot, whatever. And my thing was, I've never heard of the height division. I've never heard of the reach division. And then when you actually start breaking these things down, Jay, David Benavidez and Terence Crawford, they have virtually the same reach. If you make the argument about measurables, then you're also making the argument that Canelo Alvarez shouldn't be in the ring with David Benavidez either, because his measurables are closer to Terence Crawford than David Benavidez, yet he's the 168-pound champion. And those same people that are stating that Terence Crawford shouldn't get in the ring with David Benavidez fully support Canelo Alvarez defending his title against David Benavidez. So the arguments never made any sense. And then when you start talking about David Benavidez rehydrating up to being a heavyweight, that never made any sense either, right? Because he's just confirmed that, well, he doesn't rehydrate up to that much. He only rehydrates by 17 pounds. So, and when you look at it, he looks like he rehydrates about 17 pounds. And we know that Canelo Alvarez rehydrates about the same, right? So we made this argument. Now, I've also stated in the past that David Benavidez would be willing to fight Terence Crawford. And people were like, nah, that's not what he would do. David Benavidez doesn't want to make that fight. So now we actually have proof, Jay, of our assertion that David Benavidez would be willing to make a fight with Terence Crawford. So I want to play this snippet here from the Fresh and Fit podcast where David Benavidez says he would welcome the smoke from Terence Crawford. Let's play this clip here very quickly and react to it.
Oh, what do you think of catch weight fight at 160 with Crawford?
It's crazy because they were just talking to me about that. But no, 160, I haven't been at 160 since I was 12.
Bro, and I can only imagine cutting weight how, because you're a tall guy.
Yeah. So 160. I mean, I'm already doing a lot by getting to 168, 160. That's another 8 pounds. Yeah. So no, I'm not doing that. But Crawford is a great fighter. I mean, I would love to share the ring with Crawford if that opportunity came up, but not at 160.
Gotcha.
So if that opportunity came up, but not at 160. But at 168 he would, because that's essentially what he's saying when he said if that opportunity came up, meaning if he came up to 168, the weight class that he's already at, he would welcome that opportunity. So again, that is a path for Terence Crawford to get the opportunity to face Canelo Alvarez, because Canelo wants that fight. He'd take a fight that he believes that he could win. So that's the opportunity for Terence Crawford. And again, Terence Crawford would be making history by going up and beating somebody like David Benavidez. So I think that's an excellent fight. But I think it's interesting that David Benavidez will welcome that fight. He would love to share the ring with somebody like Terence Crawford. So David wants to fight. Say what you, Bud. What would you do? I'd be interested to hear what Bud Crawford would have to say to something like that. Jay, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, the short answer to that, Bud's already answered that question some months back, but we know Bud flip flops. You know, depends on the day, depends on the temperature and whatnot. He'll change his tune on that. So Bud said that they asked him about 4 months ago, like, would you fight Benavidez? He's like, the only person he's fighting at 68 pretty much is Canelo.
Yeah.
So he's not fighting anyone else at 68.
But that was months ago.
Find it funny as hell.
That's when he thought he could get. That's when he thought he could get directly to Canelo. That's obviously not going to happen now.
Yeah. Definitely. But I mean, I love the fact that David said that he's open to it, just not at 160, which it shouldn't be at 160 anyway. If you find at 168 to fight Canelo to try to get those belts, you can fight David at 168 to try to be the mandatory to put more pressure on Canelo. Again, guys, this ain't about trying to figure out how to get Bud beat or anything stupid stuff like that. This is trying to figure out a way to position himself, his best way to get to a Canelo fight and put pressure on Canelo to make Canelo look like what he's been doing, ducking David Benavidez. And in this point, it'll make it be like he's ducking Bud, because Bud would be the Mando if he were to beat David Benavidez. So we know now David is open to fighting Bud at 168, not 160, but 168. And to Greg's point earlier, the measurables is not there. Don't use the measurable argument, anything like that. Please don't.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I mean, I like what David had to say there. Again, David welcomes a fight with Terence Crawford. That is the point that is being made here. So it's not like David is saying, well, no, that's not a fight that I would make. That's not a fight that I want or anything of that nature. David himself is saying that I would welcome a fight with somebody like Terence Crawford because he is a great fighter. So I would like to have the opportunity to face him, simply not at 160 pounds. And he also mentioned that this is a fight that has been brought up to him in the past, just not at 160. 160 is not something that he would be willing to entertain because it's already a lot for him to get down to 168. But if the opportunity presented itself, meaning if Terence Crawford were to say, yeah, I would take that fight, then of course they would make the fight, right? But Terence, just like normally, wants a straight shot to the opportunity to be undisputed. Errol collected all the belts at 47, except with the exception of the WBO, and Terence just needed that one shot in order to get or become undisputed, two-time undisputed. Again, he just wants the one shot in order to become two-time undisputed. Exactly. So no, you don't. You're not going to get the opportunity. You're not going to be able to shortcut it. But I do believe that you can still go a shorter route. The shorter route would just be through David Benavidez or somebody of that ilk at 168 to make that opportunity to get all that dough. So that would be a great fight. I would love to see it. You know, if Terence Crawford would want to go that route, if that's his desire. If Terence Crawford wants it, then I would love to see it. If Terence Crawford doesn't want it, then I'm cool with not seeing it. You guys tell us what you think in the comment section. Don't forget to hate, like, comment, and subscribe. This is the Angry Man Podcast, AM Sports Media, and we are